Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's always super inspiring to hear you, and I think if you're not careful, you're going to have everybody wanting to leave to go create software that they can watch with yours.
No, nothing makes me happier. So Paul kind of gave a hint at this. Paul mentioned that his friend Steve was at Dow Jones and brought New Relic in, and this is that Steve. So, it's funny how we've got this community of friends that have all interacted together. But tell us how you first came across New Relic. It was even prior to Dow Jones.
Yeah, so it was actually before Dow Jones. You and I had first met, I think it was in 2009. And I was the CTO and co-founder for a company called Bloomberg Sports, which was a property that Bloomberg had incubated. And basically, our mission was to take all the data that is now collected in professional sports and build software analytics on top of it to help professional sports teams manage their operations and their organizations more effectively. And we were fairly early in market, probably a couple of hundred users across the teams, and we were focused primarily on shipping features and getting product out the door, and certainly less on sustainable operations. And we were basically flying blind. And a friend of mine at Bloomberg had really suggested that we start to look at New Relic, and we installed it in our production software, which I might not have done if I thought it was going to be hard work, but I was assured that it was just going to take a few hours. And literally within a few hours, we had more transparency into our environment than I frankly thought would have ever been possible. And in addition to starting to uncover some things that we had suspected were going wrong for some time, we were able to become quite proactive with how we actually addressed and looked at user issues. So then in 2012, when I went to go work with Paul and became the CIO and CTO at Dow Jones, bringing in New Relic was a no-brainer. And I was brought in largely to take IT from being a cost center to be a revenue driver for the business, and to really play a meaningful role in how software can be used to drive the business forward. And I'm quite proud of the technology and culture changes that we achieved over the course of those several years that I was there. I think Paul highlighted on most of them already, but just to put that into context, over my tenure there, we went from roughly 70% of our IT operations, of our IT resources focused on IT operations, to about 70% focused on product development.
Wow.
Just in a span of 3 years, while cutting some costs out as well. And AWS was our key infrastructure partner in doing that, and New Relic was key to our transparency in that. Now I feel like I have the best job in the world. So I get to travel around the world and talk to CIOs and CTOs and IT executives to help them understand how they can use the cloud and these tools to do the same thing.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about that. So what do you think in your gut is driving this dramatic shift and the pace of growth?
Yeah. So how many people here were at reInvent this year to kind of see what was going on there? A few. Okay. Good. So maybe you heard from some companies that we had on stage, like GE and Capital One and a handful of others. And really what you hear is they're using the cloud to transform their business and to drive more resources into understanding their customers and become effective with how they use software to transform their business. And what I found is that's really what this shift is all about. You hear a lot of people talk about different aspects that they're attracted to the cloud for. And one is, yes, you can save money. Yes, you can go global quickly. Yes, you can get more agility. Yes, you can improve your security posture. But at the end of the day, what it's really allowing companies do is to drive their precious resources, which are scarce, and their time and their money and their investment and their effort and their people, towards the activities that are going to drive their business, rather than having to spend time on the undifferentiated heavy lifting that generally goes with building applications in your business.
Interesting. And so in your mind, I've always thought there's been great alignment between New Relic and Amazon, and that the people who adopt AWS or public cloud in general have that mindset of let's spend our time building stuff that people like to use, not on plumbing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'd point to two things. I think that's absolutely right. And many of the customers that I talk to on a regular basis, and many of whom were at reInvent, do use both AWS and then New Relic to watch what's going on in their environments. And I'll point to two reasons why I think that's true. One is because they're both incredibly developer-friendly tools. And that's, I would imagine, what most of this audience comprises of, and hopefully you would agree. And the second is, as we kind of see this monumental shift where people are moving from, why should I use the cloud to now how can I use the cloud, I feel like New Relic plays a very important role in helping companies understand what's going on in their existing on-premises infrastructure as well as their cloud infrastructure. So as they make that transition and as they both build new things in the cloud but also begin to migrate some of their on-premises infrastructure over time, New Relic provides a great way for companies to see what's going on, as Lou pointed out now, further and further up the stack to help them with that transition.
That's fantastic. And can you give me a little peek? I know there's a ton of announcements. For those of you who weren't here, maybe a couple of the recent announcements and where you think AWS is headed, that would be of interest to this audience.
Yeah, so we just announced over the course of the past several weeks, we launched several new regions that we're going to be deploying in the UK, Korea, and India. So that's been really exciting. But I think most importantly, and this might come as a surprise given kind of the fast growth that we've seen over the course of the last 10 years or so, but we really still feel like we're just at the beginning of this journey and that there's still an awful lot of innovation left to do. And 90% of our roadmap is driven by customer feedback. And we're very, very serious and intent on listening to what our customers' pain points are and understanding what they need to continue to propel their business forward. And we remain committed to doing that. So if there's things that you would like to see in our platform, please let us know, and we would be delighted to listen and have that conversation.
That's awesome and amazing. So I have one last question for you. And it's actually an insight. We're Facebook friends, amongst, as well as probably connected on LinkedIn, and I follow you on Twitter and all that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Big fan.
We had a Twitter exchange actually on magic bands from our trip to Disney that overlapped by one day. Yeah.
I remember that.